Alrighty, it's time for another review from the festival, one of many. Today we're chatting about Mogul Mowgli, which is a new film from Bassam Tariq. It was actually the first film I saw of this year's festival. The press schedule started a little bit before the actual official festival kicks off, so I've had a little bit of time to mull on it, and it was great. It's basically the story of a rapper who's sort of growing within his career, and he gets the chance to do a big tour. He goes home, and he's sort of confronted with certain revelations about identity, not knowing exactly where he is and where he wants to place himself, but all of this sort of centered and framed around a new surprise sort of illness that sort of creeps out of nowhere within him. And I haven't seen any of the director's previous work here, but I was really impressed and surprised at just how good this thing was. I kind of got really soaked into it, and I love the fact that it isn't too long. It doesn't go too far with things. It's a nice sort of tight, concise, and really effective little film. Riz Ahmed is the lead here, and I mean, he really is just the centerpiece of this film. It spends a lot of time just with him, with his own emotions in his own head, and he is so watchable. There's something about Riz Ahmed's face that is just so endlessly engaging. There's so much in his eyes, and this film in particular, I was just glued to him at every point, which does end up making it much more of an engrossing film. It helps that you've got a lead that is so able to just throw themselves into this role, and throw himself into this role he absolutely does. He's given it his all. It's probably my favorite of Riz Ahmed's career performances at this point. But because it's really just him that we're watching, I mean, there are sort of secondary characters. We see some friends, we see his family at points, and they're all great in the film as well. But because it's really centered on this one central performance, it has this very sort of claustrophobic feel, which really helped to sort of, I guess, dig deep into these sort of themes that are coming up in the film, which are really interesting sort of clashes in theme, which are just sort of thrown together into the mix to see what sort of comes out. You've got this whole identity thing in there, this whole idea that he's from London, but he's also from Pakistan, and he's got that heritage and that culture with his family, but as a rapper, he's sort of diving much further into Western culture. So there's a clash in his self within his identity and his life at home and his life away, which is really fascinating. But there's also this kind of physical upheaval in the sense that he gets this illness and it's sort of taking over him. Both of those themes sort of taking away control, I guess, from this central character, and it's just fascinating to watch someone go through that. Narratively and dramatically, it's really engaging in that sense. And I was really impressed with the direction here, the way it tackles all of those themes, because there's a way to do this film badly. I was a little bit worried from what I'd heard about it before the film that it could run the risk of feeling quite a kind of cliche, conventional look at similar topics. We've seen films where a character is sort of thrown into hospital with an illness before. I didn't just want to see a film about someone getting sick, but there's this brilliant sort of refreshing injection of culture and identity that Tariq brings to the film, which makes it so much more interesting to watch. And he approaches that in such a kind of almost like fever dream way. And I'm such a sucker for stuff like that in films, so maybe I'm a little bit biased there, but I really enjoy that sort of watching a character just float through these really vivid, surreal fever dream moments. It can sometimes be a little bit on the nose, seeing these surreal things. Sometimes it's easier to work out what it's representing than other times, which doesn't derail it. It's not terrible for that. It can sometimes feel a little bit disappointing when it does kind of just tell you a little bit what it's trying to show and say. Like at one point, a nurse kind of quite overtly says to him, like, your body doesn't recognize itself, so it's attacking itself. And you're like, I wonder what that's related. I wonder what you're trying to say with that film. But it is a testament to how effective the performances and the direction here is, that stuff like that never derails the film. It never sucks me out enough to not enjoy my time with it. Overall, I found it to be a really interesting and sort of refreshing look at some themes which might not necessarily be hugely new, but the way they're done here are new. It's an interesting perspective which we haven't seen before, and so I'm very happy that this film exists. But what about you guys? Did you get a chance to catch Mogul Mowgli at the festival? Whatever you thought about it, let me know in the comments down below. We'll have a little chat-sees. If you enjoyed this review and you want to see me talk about more shit from the London Film Festival this year, please go ahead and click subscribe. Helps me out, but also means that you won't miss any of those reviews when they do drop. There's more to come. There is more to come. I'll see you guys very soon for some more of those. But until then, stay beautiful, stay safe. And if you are at the festival, enjoy your virtual time.